The son of Sam, one of the most notorious serial killers in U.S. history. Many believe the man behind the murderous rampage is David Berkowitz. But one survivor says it's not that simple.
There might be more to the son of Sam shootings than just David Berkowitz.
And in this rare footage,
I was tormented, I was driven, I was falling apart.
we hear from the man himself.
I look back and I said, my God, you know, how did this all come about?
It's late October 1976. A brisk evening in Flushing, Queens, one of New York City's 5 boroughs. 20-year-old Carl De Niro, who will leave for Air Force basic training soon, is ready to kick off the weekend.
The night started out like any other Friday night. I went to a party with a bunch of friends. After the party, came back to the bar that we hung out in.
There, De Niro ran into Rosemary Keenan, a pretty 18-year-old brunette he knew from college.
We talked for about 45 minutes and we decided to leave. We got into her car and drove around the neighborhood looking for basically a place to make out.
They find their spot at 159th and 33rd.
She pulled into this front of this house, no street light. We were sitting there 3 or 4, maybe 5 minutes, and next thing you know, all the windows blew out of the car. I didn't really know what happened, but I knew we were in trouble, and I told her to get out of here, start the car up. I passed out for probably 10 seconds. And when I came to, she was in a panic because she didn't know where she was, and I directed her back to the bar that we started at.
Back at the bar, the reality of De Niro's condition starts to seep in.
And doorman said, you know, Carl, you don't look too good. And I said, I don't feel good. And my shirt just turned blood red. And that's when my friend said, we gotta get him to the hospital.
At the hospital, De Niro learns what actually happened. He's been shot in the head.
I think I'm gonna be making out. And next thing you know, I get the back of my head blown off.
NYPD launches its investigation, but before long, their victim becomes their suspect.
Because of my long hair at the time, and because of the low-crime neighborhood, they kind of jumped to the conclusion that it was a drug deal gone bad. So for 6 months, I basically had to defend myself to my mother, because my mother believed the cops.
De Niro's shooting isn't an isolated incident. Over the next several months, there are more, mostly targeting couples in cars and women with long brown hair. 2 of the victims die.
Clearly, he had something in for women, although he shot men too. But women seem to be his victims of choice.
Cops are at a loss until they catch a ballistics break.
They were able to put together 4 seemingly random shootings, all tied to the same type of bullet, and then later on was the same type of gun. So they came to the conclusion that this was a serial killer. Turned out I was the second victim, so I was off the hook as a drug dealer, but found myself in the middle of a shooting spree.
The madman would be dubbed the .44 caliber killer. A month later, that would change. A letter is found near the bodies of his next 2 victims. In death, a new moniker is born.
The maniac who calls himself Son of Sam.
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 Who is the assassin hiding behind the alias? Varying witness accounts of the shooter make cops work even harder.
The sketches were so different, so it was confusing. Who was this guy?
As spring turns into summer, the Son of Sam's reign of terror continues. Shooting, killing, and taunting police.
He was kind of saying to the cops, come get me. And they didn't know how.
Then they did.
I find it remarkable how he was caught. He got a parking ticket.
I got a call from my sister saying that they just arrested the Son of Sam. His name's David Berkowitz.
24-year-old David Berkowitz, a postal worker from Yonkers, confesses to alone killing 6 and wounding 7 others, saying that the Sam in the Son of Sam referred to his neighbor, Sam Carr, and it was Carr's demonic dog who told him to kill. Cops got their man, but not everyone believed it was an open and shut case.
I believe that David Berkowitz did not act alone, and in fact, it has crossed my mind that this .44 caliber pistol that was the weapon used in the shootings that we witnessed was passed around among a number of people.
Berkowitz pleaded guilty and was eventually sentenced to 6 consecutive life terms of 25 years to life. Several years later, on 2 different occasions, investigative reporter Maury Terry interviewed David Berkowitz in prison for a documentary series. In these rarely seen meetings, Berkowitz tells Terry that he was not the only shooter.
Now, there were a series of 8 attacks known as the Son of Sam killings.
Yeah.
Did you do all of them?
I was at all of them. I was at, more or less at all of them, scouting the areas and reporting back on likely targets and things, and I did not pull the trigger at every single one of them. And I believe the police do know that.
Berkowitz claimed his accomplices were fellow members of the 22 Disciples of Hell's Satanic Cult, a group he joined when he was 22. And the killings were sacrifices to their satanic gods. Berkowitz agreed to go through each shooting, saying which ones he did and which ones he didn't, including Carl De Niro's.
Carl De Niro, Rosemary Keenan in Queens. No, that wasn't you. No. Were any of the 44 shootings done by females?
Yes.
Would that have been 1 shooting or 2?
One I know of, possibly 2. And I know that Carl's was definitely a woman.
Berkowitz refused to name any living co-conspirators for fear of reprisals against his family. But De Niro may have an idea of who she is.
All indications point to a female who was in the cult. We can actually place her within 2 blocks of the shooting, and she's still alive. She would be 71 years old now.
Who do you think shot you?
I'd rather not say.
De Niro hopes one day there will be enough evidence to have the case reopened. Until then, he counts his blessings that he's alive. He survived when, tragically, so many didn't.
I always consider myself very lucky, extremely lucky.